If one of us is a psychopath, it's not you.
We're just gonna bury the answers.
You were gonna say
Oh, yeah.
something. What's funny?
Oh, it's just like sitting with this like long ass shirt. You have the same one, right?
In
Like
green,
it's
yeah.
so awkward. Like where do you put
It
the
was cute. The
flag?
way you had, I did not even notice. It looked cute. It looked, well, now it's flipped
Okay.
up.
I don't know what to do.
Now you've wrecked it. No, I'm kidding. No, it looks cute. I love
It's
it.
gonna move anyway, so.
Yeah.
How are
Um,
you?
I'm good. Sorry, that was so distracting. How are you? It has been a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's been yeah. No, I'm good this week. Yeah, last week was a lot. Definitely, wasn't my feelings about it. This week is a little bit better. It's been weird, especially this week where, it's still going on. Like the fires are still burning. It's still like
Yeah.
less than a quarter contained. So it feels really surreal that our area feels like, okay, like it feels like safe enough. Like, like nothing is like really happening in our area. But you go like 20, 30 minutes from where we are and it's just like areas are evacuated even closer than that. So like just that, like reconciling with that is really like strange. And also just like the amount of people that have just like lost everything.
Yeah.
Um, it's really rough. Like, you know, and I keep hearing that it hasn't been this bad in over a decade. Like the last time people remember like a really bad fire is like 2011, and they're like this surpasses that. So, and there were a few of them. Like, I mean, I was talking to you last week. Like there was a period where I think like last Thursday it felt like whack-a-mole. It was like something new every day. I keep feeling guilty about feeling like this because I didn't lose anything. I'm safe. Like my home's safe. My everyone I love is safe. And then it's just like all these people are going through so much, and then you're like, it's hard, So
Oh,
I'm just like, so there's that. So I'm just trying to be like, I'm grateful for like being safe and just yeah.
you can have two feelings at once. You can be grateful while also feeling like devastated. And like, it is also like a collective trauma, I think. And like, obviously, some things are more like, yes, some people have lost everything and that's its own trauma. But then there's also just like the fear that everybody's feeling, especially like being so close to it. And like you saying that you want to be like close to your, you want your family all in one space to make sure that you're all safe. Like, it is still its own trauma. And like, a collective trauma is still a collective trauma, even though people are experiencing it in like different degrees.
It is conflicting. It's like, yeah, there are so many like aspects of that grief too. Um, and it is sort of collective trauma. And like, there's this feeling of, you don't know if you're safe because even in terms of like air quality, around our area, it's for the most part, the AQI has been like it seems fine, and then you're like, but we're pretty close to it, so I don't understand like why it's not worse. There were a couple of days last week where it went up to like close to 200, and that's like really bad. But these past couple of days, it's been like in the 20s, and I'm just like, that doesn't make sense to me. And then today, because we were also smelling like fire, and and seeing fire, seeing smoke. Last week, and then today, apparently that reading doesn't account for ash in the air. So it's like the ash particles are way too big to be captured, for they're too small to see. So it's like, oh shit, like when you think that the air is fine, apparently maybe it wasn't. So there's a little bit of that too. So
Oh my
just
God.
they're saying wear masks. So, yeah.
Have you been kind of just like I guess you're just like staying inside like as much as you possibly can? Is that kind of what is
Yeah.
happening, or?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also like weird because it's beautiful and sunny
Yeah.
out. And you're like, I want to be outside. And you're like, oh shit, no, probably not a good idea. So there's a little bit of that, of like sort of like reminding yourself like, okay, like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's better to stay inside and like wear a mask and all of that. Yeah. Hopefully, the winds have died down or seem to be dying
Mm.
down. Hopefully, so it stays stable and it gets to be more contained. And yeah. Um, well, what this has taught me is to always have a go bag, or at least like know what you're gonna pack in your go
An
bag.
emergency
Because
bag, yeah.
yeah,
So smart.
yeah, yep. All right. Well, should we get into it? How was your week? How's your week been?
Oh, my week was great. I went to go see Jamie XX last night. It was really fun.
Nice.
And that's pretty much it. Is that it? I don't even know. I feel like, oh, I went to go see a movie. I went to go see All We Imagine Is Light. So good. Such a beautiful movie, great soundtrack. Um, Obsessed. That's definitely like a reco for everyone.
I actually watched like a couple movies recently. I watched Anora, which is
I
just so
want to see
fun.
that. I love
It's
that
so good.
director because he did Florida Project, right? And Tangerine. That's the same
Hmm.
something Baker. Can't remember his name.
Yeah, Sean Baker.
Sean Baker. All We Imagine Is
Um,
Light was directed by I might be pronouncing it wrong, but Pael Kapadia.
hmm,
Beautiful. I saw that TIFF.
Capadia, maybe. Um,
Probably.
but Anora was so fun too. Like it was unexpected. Like me and Justin just like put it on and it's like watching a movie on a Monday night, and we're like, who are we watching movies on Monday nights?
I love
I
doing
don't
that.
know why it
This is
feels
the time of
like
year
luxurious.
to yeah, it's the time of year to do that. Like watch a movie on a Monday night. I feel like I've been watching so many movies lately. On
Hmm.
Monday, a Tuesday, I watched Substance between Tuesday and Wednesday last week. I
Hmm.
watched um oh my God, the one that we did the book on, the horrible book. Um
The horrible
It Ends
book.
With Us.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Did you watch the movie?
No, I didn't.
The movie wasn't as bad as the book, but it wasn't very good. Um
Hmm.
But yeah, I've been watching lots of movies. And then Squid Game, like, and then Severance comes out on Friday. Like, this is the time to just watch watch TV, folks, and read
I'm so
books.
excited for Severance. Tomorrow. It comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow night,
Yeah.
season two. Can't
Um,
wait.
did
They
you
filmed some of
did
it.
you
Oh, sorry.
see? Go ahead.
They filmed some of it in Bonavista, which is like in Newfoundland. So I'm curious
Oh
to
yeah.
see. I think I know what you're gonna ask though about what I saw. The Grand Central Station.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, they had this like marketing thing at Grand Central Station where they're just working there. I thought that was really cute.
I loved it. All the
Yeah.
Audis. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. All the Audis out there drinking. Oh my God. Am I okay? I just had one sip of this. All the Audis were there like filming, and then all the innies were working away. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, shall we get into it?
Let's do it. I have this right here.
Yay,
I
me
put it
too.
up here. Hey.
I love that. Oh, I should
Um,
do that. Do I have room on my bookshelf?
yeah, it'll sit up there.
Will it? For now.
Will you just have
Like,
to
it's
like
me on the
position
back of the
yourself so you're not
head.
hiding it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Straight Up Book Club. Today we're talking about the second half of this book. Yeah, it was, oh my gosh. I feel like I took my time reading the second half. I
Good.
like plowed through like the first little bit, and then I just like kind of forgot about it for a week, and then I finished it
You were going
two
through
nights ago.
something. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was. This book has been a trip for me, but yeah, you want to talk about what's happened in this half?
Okay, so at the halfway mark where we left off last time, essentially Margot, Casey, and Rose decide to start filming a bunch of content for TikTok. And once they publish, their accounts grow, like especially Margot's. Like Margot wakes up and she's almost embarrassed by how many more accounts followers she has compared to Casey and Rose, who already have like a substantial following. Meanwhile, Margo gets a letter from Mark's lawyer. This is the baby daddy, filing for custody over Bodhi. And Margo uses a bit of her savings to hire a lawyer. His name is Ward, and she warms up to him right away. He like offers her donuts, and she's like, I knew I would like him the moment that he brought me donuts. And Margo also finds out that Jinx, her dad, had threatened Mark on the phone. And this is kind of why this custody hearing is happening. And Mark is essentially trying to plead that Margo's an unfit mother. And because of this, she has to do this like intense psychological testing, and which also includes a home visit. And it's just, it sounds like hell. Like these crazy tests that she has to do where she has to go through like every single soundbite of her life, things that like don't even really make any sense. I'm trying to remember some of the weird questions that were on it, but it was like things as benign as like, do you like bacon for dinner? Like it just seemed like kind of like chaotic things like that that can really make someone say if they're fit or unfit. But I guess, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know.
It's also like they were almost like trying to like trick you into like, because apparently people will try to be like, what is the most regular like person who has it together? Like, what would they answer? And so they're trying to like throw you off. And I thought that was so interesting. Like, I wonder if that's actually like how this happens. So, like almost having like trick questions in there, like you said.
I almost want to do one of these, excuse me, just to see how I would feel doing it. Because I do think it would be very jarring, and it would be a little bit of like, I'm gonna win this psychological testing. It kind of reminds me of like, do you remember in Community when Britta is like doing these psych evaluations for all her classmates, and she's like, one of us is a psychopath, and they're like, spend the whole episode trying to figure out who the psychopath is. And it turns out at the end, like none of them realize it, but there's like a quick like camera moment when the episode is ended that shows that all of the tests were done upside down, so everyone's a psychopath except for one, and it was Abed.
That's funny.
We should find these tests online and do them for fun and see what happens. I'll look into it.
I'm scared.
If one of us is a psychopath, it's not you.
We're just gonna bury the answers or bury the results.
Oh my god. So then last time to remember that Cheyenne had essentially like freaked out at Margo when she found out that she had an OnlyFans account. And she does call to apologize for being so harsh, but insists that she needs to quit OnlyFans. And Margo essentially lies and says that she's going to do that and become a real estate agent anyways. And then Margo has a moment where she tells us she's been in an unreliable narrator about something, which we kind of called out last time. We're like, there's something sus going on here with all these like POV changes. Like there's something almost unreliable about it, which we're familiar with from reading like The Fury. And essentially the thing that she was lying about is that one night she found Jinx in the bathtub with a needle in his arm, and he had been using heroin again. And she confiscates the heroin. I think she flushes it down the toilet. She takes his needles, stashes them in the back of her closet, and she and Jinx decide that it's best for him to start going to a methadone clinic because it like she did a ton of research and established that it is the proven way to help someone like get through their chronic pain, but in a way where they don't they can like manage their symptoms and not have to go through these insane withdrawals.
I feel like last time I was like Camp Jinx. I was like, he's got it together. He's like, he's really showing up in all these ways. And you were like, yeah, I don't know about this. And I was like, oh, like Heather like totally saw this coming because like, yeah, he has been sort of like, getting in that stash that, not stash, but like he's been accessing the pills that Marco's hidden on his request, right? So there's that happening. I really was believing that, he had a handle on it. So it was just like, it was really heartbreaking to see that and to see, him also having this moment where he just like loses it on Mark and just kind of like oversteps in that way. But yeah, keep going.
It was definitely like a very sad moment because I did feel like the two of them like had something really special going there with him like taking care of Bodhi while she was pursuing her job. So it was really disappointing to see that for sure. Then Margot and JB agreed to meet up, which I thought was really interesting. He flies to California and takes her to his rental, and they have a really good time, except for the fact that, like, on her way out, she twists her ankle. And the next morning, Jinx calls to say that Child Protective Services is at the house to do an inspection, and the woman is going to take Bodhi if Margot doesn't show up immediately. So she races home. JB's like, "Let me help you inside," and she's like, "No, no, I don't want your help. Like, you can't be seen. Like, I can't have this woman thinking that I'm like hooking up with men that I barely know. Like, I just need to like go inside on my own." And Margot essentially has a really awkward visit with the CPS woman. I think her name was it Maribel. I feel like it
Yeah,
was
that's
okay
right.
with Maribel. And she has a moment where she's worried that Maribel's going to go into the closet and find the needles because she hasn't gotten rid of those. So Margot does confess to the woman that Jinx is on methadone, and she says, and Maribel essentially says that Jinx is going to have to move out, um, because he will, when he does a urine sample, which she's going to take next, it will show up as he has drugs in his system. And Margot's like, well, it's legal drugs. Like, it's methadone. Like he's going to a clinic every day. Like it's fine. And Maribel's, no, it doesn't matter. He'll fail the urine test and he won't be allowed to stay here. And
Hmm.
Margot really like kind of is combative about this stance, but Maribel just seems to be on this power trip, and she's like, I'm taking the urine sample and I'm taking yours, and I'm gonna come back and do a follow up. So Margot's pretty devastated by this news after the woman leaves. Margot decides to break things off with JB, knowing that like there's not really a place for her to have a relationship right now, and like he is pretty bummed, but he takes it very well, very respectfully. Meanwhile, like this whole time, we're kind of thinking that Mark has been the one who called CPS, Child Protective Services, but it was actually Cheyenne because Kenny
So
had
shady.
made her so fucking shady. I hate this guy.
Yeah.
Um, Margot then decides like she's gonna quit OnlyFans and is looking into becoming a real estate agent. The court ordered psych eval comes back along with the home visit report from that one because there was two separate ones. There was a child protective services one and then the one that had been like a part of the psych eval from the court mandated like custody hearing. And it turns
Hmm.
out that Margot is overall like a good mother with optimal parenting styles. It did note that like she might have a tendency towards like depression and substance abuse, but that it was noted that there was no evidence of substance abuse for her in her home.
Hmm.
Um, Once this happens, Margot decides that she's going to go talk to Mark, and she shows up at his home where he lives with his mother. He kind of lives in like a pool house that's in like a bit of a disarray. And she very blatantly says to him, like, what do you want out of this? Like, I need to know. Like, I just want what's best for Bodhi. Like, I want to know what you want from this. And Mark's like, I was legitimately worried that, like, you weren't a fit mother because of everything that was going on with OnlyFans, with Jinx threatening me, but, like, the tests came back. It says that you're fit. He's like, I don't want to take Bodhi from you, especially because, like, you've known him since day one. And Margot's
Hmm.
like, well, do you want, like, access to his life? Like, do you want to see him once a week? And he says yes, like that is something that he wants. And so he takes her up on that, and then he ends up kind of like coming to the house, and there's a really sweet moment where he's playing with Bodhi on the floor, and Margot's watching this happen. And then while this is happening, that Child Protective Services woman, Maribel, shows up again. And what's been happening in the background is Margot's been building a case with her lawyer against this woman, Maribel, because she knows that this woman is just out to get her. She's on this power trip. So she builds a case essentially saying that Maribel entered the home without a warrant and also threatened to take Bodhi that day, which was not okay. And I can't remember what some of the other things were, but essentially there was a big case against her and CPS. And when the woman showed up and Margot showed her all this, the woman's like, okay, like your urine sample came back negative and you're fine, so don't worry, we won't follow up with you again. And she just leaves, and that's
Hmm.
kind of settled. It almost felt like a very quick, like, box was checked there to me, but I don't know, that was just a more minor detail once we found out who the person was that called Child Protective Services. I feel like that was kind of like a
Yeah.
bigger plot line. And in the end, essentially, Margot decides she wants to keep doing OnlyFans. During this time, JB contacts her with a business proposal and essentially says that he wants to create, like, with Margot's approval, a consulting, oh my God. consultant service, consultancy. Can I
Yeah.
talk? Like
Consultancy. Yeah.
consultancy. That is a word. Okay, you know when you say a word and you're like, is that a word? Like consultancy. It sounds weird to me, but a consultancy service where they offer essentially like bios and tips to help women create careers on OnlyFans. And Margot's now
Hmm.
living her best life where she has a job where she can essentially like work from home and take care of Bodhi, where she has childcare from her father. Susie's also her roommate is becoming like an integral part of her business. And it
That
sounds
was
like
so
she's
sweet.
thriving. Oh, I love Susie.
Yeah.
That's it.
She
I
just
feel like that
wanted to
was
be
so
part of the
much.
team.
That's all she
Yeah.
wanted. And there was a part when her and Susie sit down to talk, and Susie's kind of like hinting at that she wants something, and Margot's like, "Tell me what you want. Like I'll give it to you. What do you want? Do you want to be the nanny? Do you want to be like more involved in the business?" And Susie's like, "I want to be a part of your team. I want you to come to me if you're thinking about quitting to become a real estate agent." And Margot's like, "Absolutely.
Hmm.
No problem. That's a great idea." And I really like that relationship that kind of came out from the two of them in the end.
That was really sweet. Yeah. Yeah. Susie's like probably, yeah, one of my favorite characters in this book. Probably my favorite character, actually, because I think I just
Ooh.
really like the sleeper characters, you know, who you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to pay attention to them yet. And then they're kind of like surprising you. Like, she's just been like, I really liked her consistent sort of presence throughout. And especially like moments like this. It's like been a really nice tool to add some warmth, you know? Um, I don't know, and it's also like a great way of showing like that Margot had love in like these forms in her life that she
True.
didn't recognize. You know, um, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is like at the very end of this book, Margot has this moment where she's talking about, you know, she's wanted to be loved her whole life, and she always
Mm-hmm.
thought that, you know, she was doing something wrong to not deserve love. And it was just like this really heartbreaking paragraph where she like talks about like, oh, but now I realize that it's not really about other people. It's like from within me, kind of, right? So it's almost like she's um like uh like learning to be a little bit more secure in herself and not sort of rely on people externally. But she's always been looking for love from her mom, where
Mm-hmm.
it's been kind of like self serving love. And her dad too, right? Has been That's been a complicated relationship. But then she has like a friend like Susie who's sort of been there for like a while now, and she sort of hasn't realized that. And I know that their relationship or has evolved as well, but I just like moments like that where um it's almost like there are people in her life she wasn't appreciating when she was like chasing others, and now she's able to appreciate someone like Susie.
And as cliche as it is, I think that relationship from Susie came forward or like to fruition when Margot did start to like love herself a little more because it kind of came out of like at the beginning of the novel, I got the sense that her and Susie weren't that close, but Susie was like the nicer of the three roommates, the one who kind of like, oh, she does her LARPing thing and she's kind of quirky, but she's sweet compared to the cats. And that was kind of like the state of their relationship. And then
Hmm.
when Margot started to pursue OnlyFans and she went to Susie about like, can I borrow, I think she wanted to like borrow costumes or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of where this started. So it was like Margot started to do something for herself and called in a favor, which you call in favors when you feel good. Maybe this is a stretch, but I feel like when you are like feeling good about yourself and you feel like you deserve it and you deserve the help of someone else. And I think like that
Hmm.
is when people start to show up. Like you, when you're, you know, you feel confident enough in yourself and your self love that you're going to start like asking for things from others. And maybe, again, maybe that's a stretch, but it did seem to blossom out of that, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's also an element of, you know, even Susie like sort of offering to help, I think like
Mm-hmm.
open that door up a little bit more because she's the only person who's offered to help with Bodhi. Like there's this
Mm-hmm.
moment where she's like playing with him when Jinx is around too. But Susie's the one who's sort of like taking on the role of playing with him. So yeah, that's really interesting too. It's like this sort of give and take where she didn't have that with the cat. She doesn't have that with Cheyenne. She has that with Jinx, but so I think, yeah, there is that element of you need to be open to sort of accepting that help, but then
Mm-hmm.
also like, maybe it is about people being open to what you have going on in your
Mm-hmm.
life, right? I feel like, there's some really important social commentary going on in this book. And it's just like there have been some moments where it's just been like really infuriating to read just what Margo is going through because, she's sort of faced with sort of an impossible situation, right? Like she's in school and she has this like really difficult decision to make. She makes it and she's making like a life for herself. She's making it work with her sort of the responsibilities. She's a mom now. She's figuring out how to do that and then also find a way to make a really good living, right? And she's being really creative about it. She's like really driven to find a solution. But it feels like the world is just like really coming down on her. So she keeps being thrown these obstacles and she's being thrown them from like those who are closest to her, right?
Yeah.
So it's the cats who are like, can't do this. Like, we're out, find a way to pay it. It's her mom who's like, okay, like, if you're doing this, I'm out of your life too. Um, it's her boss who's like, okay, you can't continue on in this. So, that is already so hard. And then when CPS keeps like, I keep saying CPS, but really it's both CPS and the sort of custody battle that are sort of hand in hand there, right? They're both sort of asking her to take on even more tests to prove that she's giving Bodhi a good life when she has been. So that part of it is really infuriating. But then there's also Jinx, right? Like he has been struggling with addiction. He has this relapse, but he's working through it. And as he's working through it, like that is also taken as this thing to rain down on Margot as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one person who offers support to her and offers childcare, but, apparently, like, he can't right now. So, that seems to be another obstacle in almost like the authorities' eyes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, so I found that really rough to read.
That part with Jinx having to move out of the house when they had just established something real because the authorities, like you said, would judge him as a person who is on drugs even though he is using this legal, scientifically proven way to stay off of heroin,
Hmm.
and they're using that against him. Like that's kind of something that I feel like is also part and parcel with it. It's like really kicking people when they're down. Like this guy, uh, was sober, relapsed, found a way to get off of heroin and stay off of heroin, and now the authorities are like using it against him. It just felt like so wrong. It's a group of people. None of the systems are working in their favor. Margo brings it up too about how like when she had to hire a lawyer to for the custody battle, and she finally had money because of OnlyFans, and she's like, this is gonna cost me like $40,000. She's like, what do women do who can't afford this? She goes, I guess they just lose their kids.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
is the reality here. She found freedom in OnlyFans because that was the thing that gave her the money. If she didn't have OnlyFans, she wouldn't have been able to hire the lawyer
Mhm.
to um get back at Mark. And the problem wasn't the OnlyFans. Like, obviously, it helped his case, but the problem was that Jinx called and threatened him. So no matter what, Mark would have taken her to court. And if she didn't have the money to pay for a lawyer, she just would have lost her kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really distressing. Um, Freedom. You have a note in here about, do you think it's freeing to, how do they phrase it? It's freeing to be
There's,
hated.
mm-hmm.
What do you think of that? I stole your question.
No, I love it. It's funny because I wrote that down and I'm like, I don't actually know how I feel. I do feel like it's true. I do think there's a freedom to being hated because I think that being liked has a lot of pressure surrounding it, if that makes sense. To adhere to whatever if you're a person that everybody likes, it's because you've probably given people what they want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And we kind of talked about this last time too, where it's like a lot of um I can't even remember what it was in reference to, but a lot of, you know, being like the face or whatever is like people pleasing and mirroring, and that's kind of like you're giving people what you want, and that's why people like you. So if people don't like you, you don't have to feel like you have to deliver anything to them. So I do think that there's
Yeah.
freedom there. Like if people don't like you, you can just live your life. If people like you, you have to keep giving them what they expect from you. That's kind of where my head is. I'm curious to know what you think about it. You said something about how it reminded you of the book, like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which I've actually never read. I've seen it so many times. Like, people have recommended it, but I've never actually read it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I brought up for me because I do think it's freeing. Um, I think it does bring like its own like, level of issues, but I think it's freeing to not care what other people think. And that's what this book goes into, where it's like if you sort of, cultivate the art of not giving a fuck, where, you can do what you want. And it's really uh like focused in on, following your passions, your passion being art or creating or whatever. So if you are so focused on just creating, and sometimes that it means just making a fool of yourself in public, or really trying and making it really apparent that you're trying. I feel like we're all really afraid of being new at something, and having people judge us for being bad at something because we're trying it and we're not good at it yet. So there's that aspect of it too. It's like it takes a level of confidence to be like, hey, like I'm really bad at this thing. It doesn't really matter to me how you think of me for witnessing me doing this thing. I think it goes back to being liked too, because you know it's the level of confidence around, I might like have beliefs or do things that you don't agree with, but I'm confident that that's how I want to live. And so if that makes you hate me, then that's okay. So that's how I read that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm creating this tie with this book, because it's almost like, well, like you're trying to be authentic in that way, So maybe it doesn't matter if it leads to people hating you, but if they already hate you, then who cares, right? Like that part of it, you don't even have to worry about anymore. But then maybe it, brings its own level of like stressors if people hate you, and that's really taxing,
Yeah.
right? As someone who's a people pleaser and, trying to constantly work on it and like set boundaries and things like that. Yeah, it does. It adds stress when you know that someone really dislikes you and you're like, what did I do to make you hate me? So it's like hard to compartmentalize that too. So
Sorry, I'm thinking back to like an episode of I think it was, no, was it Hey Arnold? Or was it Recess? When maybe it was Recess, and like the main character
recess.
found out someone at school didn't like him, and he got so upset, and he's like, he keeps thinking like I have to talk to this guy, I have to talk to this guy, like I have to make him like me. And he like the whole episode is him trying to make this guy like him, like kind of like tangentially. It's like he'll like put on a show or like do something really nice for him, but like doesn't really bring it up. And at the end of
Hmm.
the episode, he like just straight up talks to him. And he's like, "Hey, like I heard you don't like me. Like what's going on with that?" And the guy goes, "I don't have a reason. Like I just don't really like you." And he just he actually has a moment where he feels so free and like, okay, that's it. It's not something I did. And the guy's like, no, I just don't like you. And he's like, okay. And then they just kind of move on. And that's kind of what I see and think when I think about this. I think it's like he knew he didn't like him at the beginning, and that drove him crazy, which is I think what you and I experience if someone, if we feel like
Hmm.
someone doesn't like us. I think it's the freedom in knowing. I don't even know how to like describe it. It's like knowing that it's like nothing. I don't know. I'm not describing it well, but
Yeah,
anyways, there was
I
a
get
freedom at the end of that episode, a release.
I get you what you mean too, because I feel like there's also like an element of like gaslighting, right? Where it's like you need confirmation that what you're like experiencing isn't in your head, you know? Because it's
Yeah.
like, why does this one
Yes.
person like treat me differently than, they treat someone else? And, we're interacting in a similar way. And so confirmation of that is a little freeing. So maybe do you think it's an element of that you're seeing?
I think that's a really, really good point, and I think that's exactly right. Because if you don't know, you spiral. Because I think we all have qualities about ourselves that we like and qualities about ourselves that we don't like. And if we don't know why someone doesn't like us as someone who's like a people pleaser, it makes us spiral. But if you can like pinpoint why someone's like, I don't know, Heather, I don't like you because you're tall. Fuck you. Okay, great. Move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like your voice annoys me. Well, can't do anything about that. So
See,
bye. Like don't care. There is almost a freedom in knowing what it is because it's either like if it's something you also don't like, great, I'll work on that. I'll fix it. If it's something that you're like, "Wait, I like this about myself." Fuck you. Like there is a little bit of a freedom there. So,
yeah.
thank you for articulating what I like could not figure.
Okay, I have something.
Okay. Do it. Give it to me.
The most unbelievable part of this book is JB.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I did. Yes, agreed.
Like,
How is he not a catfish? Out of
how?
all of her problems, all of her troubles, how
Mhm.
is he not a catfish? He's actually like a sweet, kind man who's gonna help her with her business.
Yeah, it's like I don't, I don't believe in this relationship because it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I felt like an element of that sort of unreliable narrator piece would be tied to JB just because that part feels so like
Hmm.
fantastical and this is almost like she willed this perfect man into existence and now yeah like you said he's gonna be part of her business and like yeah we're ending on this will they won't they but also we kind of know that they will and that part of it I don't know. I feel like that was the one part I didn't like about this book.
Maybe we just watch a lot of like catfishing documentaries. There's like no world where we can believe that someone's like, I like you on the internet and isn't someone who they're not.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, it was definitely like the least believable for me. Maybe that's me being jaded. I don't know, but it was also like very in touch with the whole idea of like when, you're loving yourself, which I know is so cliche that like you'll never find love until you love yourself, and that's kind of what happened with Margot here. Like she started to really just like it all started with her keeping the baby, which she said was like one of the first things she ever did for herself, finally telling people no, that this is something that she wanted. Whether she wanted it or not, she was like, I just wanted to like tell people no for once.
Hmm.
And she did that. And then she kind of found her own way. And in doing so, she found this guy. And I don't know, there was something like kind of sweet about that. But it was very like, wait, this guy's for real. The moment he showed up on the door and there was that whole scene when she falls on the stairs and like breaks her ankle or whatever, I was like, whoa, wait, this can't be real. This is the thing that she's going to be like, just kidding, I lied, I was unreliable. Maybe there's a book too where she's like, that whole thing was a lie. He did catfish me. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was shocking.
Go watch it, Nora, because there's this moment there where it's this guy like shows up and it's just like this like savior character in a way, and I'm just like, yeah, is
I'm
it
gonna
real?
watch
Is it
it.
not real? Yeah,
Maybe this weekend.
go watch it so I can talk to you about it.
Okay. On our next one, we'll catch up on it. The
Okay.
only thing, this is just a comment that I feel like has to be made, but the part in this book that made me scream with fury and like made my blood boil was when they're in the court hearing and Mark keeps arguing that Margo is an unfit mother and he says because she's a child, she's a child.
Oh my
I
God.
was dying. I'm like, how is nobody going but you impregnated the child? Like how is this not a conversation that's happening right now? I was losing my mind. Losing my mind. It's just my comment. I had to let it out. I feel like we can't talk about this book without bringing that up, but like a whole other social commentary about the inappropriate nature of relationships between teachers and their students.
Right. And also the lack of consequences that he faces, right? Like he
Yes.
kind of gets what he wants out of the situation. Like he doesn't want custody. And when he does want custody, like, you know, she's a lot more, she's open to it, right? So he's really like not getting any repercussions, and his mom's dealing with all of it for him too, which is like just like really gross. Um,
How
so
did he get a happy ending? That pisses me
yeah.
off a little bit.
Well, I
Also,
mean,
like,
his relationship did break up, so I guess there's that element, and he is fighting for custody of his children. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, other than that, no. Okay,
should we talk
should
about
we?
what we're gonna read next?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Okay, so next time, oh, this is so fluorescent, it's hard to make out, I think, in this light. Yeah, yours is more legible, I think. We're gonna read Come and Get It by Kylie Reid. We read Such a Fun Age by her a couple of seasons ago. We both really loved it. And I'm so excited to read this. I looked at the synopsis just like a little bit. I'm starting to feel like I want to know what I'm reading now a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And so, this is, you know, about someone who's just graduated from university, and she's trying to, you know, figure out what to do next. And she gets sort of a proposition for some sort of job slash career. And I think this book really goes into the ethics of what is okay and not okay to do for money. And so it's interesting that we're gonna read this after. I don't think this is about sex work, at least from what I can tell so far. But yeah, we're gonna go into some more sort of ethics around, yeah, money making.
I love that. I love books about money. Like, bring them, write them, we'll read them, talk about them.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for this one.
let's read the first 10 chapters and
Love
we'll
it.
talk to you about it next time.
See you at book club.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.